Okay, so welcome to the NCJLA new club leader training. Today is September 19th, 2020, and my name is Laura Jennings. I'm the executive director for the NCJLA, and I have two other staff members with me, Aaron and Chris, our boys and girls director for the NCJLA. Tonight we are going to go over a few agenda items, just welcome and introductions, which we're going over right now. And then we'll talk about some NCJLA sources of support for club leaders. This could also be for coaches, if there's any coaches that are joining us tonight. The club operations must-dos. These are items, there's only a few of them, but they're critical to the club's success. And then some NCJLA club activities, just some best practices that we've learned over the years. And then finally, we will end with a Q&A with a panel of mentor club leaders. These are people in our lacrosse community that have been in charge of a club for any number of years. We have some people who will be on tonight, for 10 plus years, and others that are 3 or 4 years into running a club. So great information and experiences to learn about tonight. I see we have a few more people joining us, so we're just going over the agenda. And sources of support. So this is our first section here. This I think is critical for new club leaders. You are not alone. I think that's the key takeaway here. We have 4 staff members who are available for the from the NCJLA to help you. Myself, I've been with the organization since 2015, and I have been coaching or officiating in the NCJLA since 2012. We also have our boys director, Chris, who has been with us since 2017. Erin, who has been with us since 2019, and she is also our sportsmanship chair. And then Dan Miller is not the girls director, he's actually the webmaster. And Dan has been with us the longest. He has been with the NCJLA since 2009. Erin, would you like to introduce your girls commissioners?
Yes. Here we have a slide that's showing our 4 girls commissioners. Luckily, this will be all 4 of them. They've all agreed to have a second year with us in a row, which is really amazing. Connie Katie is the 8U and 10U commissioner. Corey Connor, 12U, Adam, 14U, and Kyle Kennedy. He's the high school commissioner. I'm going to touch base on Kyle first. He, the main thing that he does as the commissioner manages our girls high school all-stars, and that's a big duty on top of just being a commissioner available during the regular season. So all of your high school coaches will be in communication with him towards the end of the season to collect the names of the all-stars that you've selected from your team. And this year we have started a new system, I guess you could say, with having our commissioners represent regions. So you can, each one has one of our 4 regions. They're all very experienced with lacrosse, and they're all a wealth of knowledge. So we really hope that you will tell all of your coaches and your reps that they're people to reach out to directly to get information about those specific age levels when it comes to your practice planning or skill development issues. That's all.
Oh, Adam is your 14U, right?
Yeah, 14U.
Okay. Okay, and he's representing the Central West, and Corey is going to represent the North.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Chris, your boys commissioners?
Okay, hi. I've got first we've got Jim Kircher, who's our boys high school commissioner, and we're fortunate enough to have Jim on the call tonight. And we'll get to that in just another moment. And then we have Geraldo Gonzalez, who's our boys 14U commissioner. Both of these commissioners have been around the league for a while. Each one of them brings a skill set that is fantastic, and I highly recommend anyone with any questions reach out to these two gentlemen. There's a good chance that you've seen them at numerous NCJLA events throughout the course of the seasons. There's typically one or both, if you're lucky, at each event, so, or at least a large amount of the events. So they're tremendous resources. I know that with the kind of the regional scope of the commissioner's duties, we're looking at Jim for the Northwest and East regions, and then Geraldo for the Central and Southwest regions. So both fantastic commissioners.
Okay.
So the next thing that we'd like to discuss right now is we're fortunate enough to have a panel of individuals who have a large resume of diverse expertise join us tonight. And this panel consists of, originally we had 4. Unfortunately, Phil had something come up where he wasn't able to make it tonight. But as you can see from the resumes on the screen, each one of them have a pretty in-depth experience with, could be starting a club, longevity with different clubs, each one of them doing their own high school or NCJLA youth coaching through the years. Some are former board members, current board members. So we have a great group of people. We've got, for tonight, we've got Kathy Reed, who's from Sacramento Lacrosse. Matt, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Matt, so you have to correct me if I'm not, but Beaulieu?
Close enough, Chris. Close enough.
All right. Is it French?
It is, but if I said it the way it sounds, people would look at me funny. So we just go with Baloo.
Okay. My mother's French Canadian, so she might be ashamed if I wasn't that close. And Jim Kircher again. This is a fantastic panel, and we'll after we finish with our new club training, we're going to open it up to the panelists at the end, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into what they will share and what resources they are toward the end of the presentation.
So this slide is showcasing our website. We wanted to highlight a few specific areas that are very helpful when you maybe are trying to figure out something. We have, first of all, the help and support tab, which you can see is on the left-hand tab, circled at the bottom right left corner of the computer screen. And then at the top, the club administrator tab, that contains the next bullet point, which is the club communications page. So this tab is probably the most important one that you'll need, and has a lot of really current information. The club communications tab is going to have every email that you get from us will be also captured there. Club contacts page is circled also on the left side panel that have all of the others listed and their contacts when you need to call other club's president or find or maybe their treasurer or another admin. So that's where you would go for that. Lastly, we have a new tab, our diversity, equity, and inclusion updates page. This is going to have really great information for you to share with your club on how to improve your club's diversity and equity inclusion.
Erin, I just wanted to add that, yeah, I just wanted to add that a lot of times new club leaders, they go out and make things on their own, and I would I guess I want to remind or just point out to them that our website is very in-depth and has a lot of information and things that we provide to them to use. So feel free, if your club is looking for something, to email one of us, and maybe even Dan, and see if we already have something made or written up on a topic, that you guys could borrow to use.
So going with Laura's point, we're going to highlight a few elements that you can find through this website. Our club board member resources. There is a link on the right side of the web page, the home page, that will show you our season workflow calendar by month. There's a boys and girls rep responsibilities tab. There's specific examples or samples for presidents. There's a list of club administrative tasks, a sample calendar, which is a form that basically will keep you moving through your tasks through the whole season. And then, like Laura said, that we have sample documents and plans for you to use, so you don't have to make things from scratch if you don't want to, or you could at least use them as examples. And then we also have a Google Calendar. So this includes all of our due dates, all of our event dates, our meeting dates, and you can subscribe for automatic updates and reminders. So we highly recommend that you and all of your board members do so. Laura, there's a link in the notes if you want to click on that, and we could go to that.
Oh. Stand by. It might. It won't let me go to it, Erin.
Okay. That's okay. It's there's a box on the right-hand side of our website that it will say Google Drive, and it's pretty easy to navigate. Okay, so we can go to the next one.
Okay. So the NCJLA Operations Guide is one of the most valuable documents that you will access and review throughout the course of the season. It's essentially the Bible of NCJLA operations. So any new and existing club administrator should get to know this, review it from top to bottom. We tried year after year, we go through and try and refine. We make adjustments where necessary, we update where necessary, we highlight those updates so that it's easy to see what's changed from previous seasons, especially for those administrators who've been in the NCJLA for a while and really just want to focus on what's changed, what's new. But for your first time admins or relatively new admins, this is a document that you will go to over and over again when you're wondering about what to do and when. We've kind of broken it up into different parts where we have the first section is review club requirements for membership. It's good to know these sections 1 through 6. And then also get to know your NCJLA club policies. Paramount importance. A lot of this has to do with the foundation of your program and what's expected to you as club administrators, what's expected of you as club administrators. Second, we can break this down to review the preseason activities. What should you be doing prior to the season? So sections 7 through 19. These are all extremely important. And we've also written this in such a way where we try and hit the key points of everything, reducing the amount of extra language when not necessary. So we really try and maximize the efficiency of the guide because we know that there's a lot of material here. By no means do we expect everybody to memorize this the first time they go through, or years later you're going to have to go back and reference this guide. But it's always here. We always try and make it as accessible and easy to review as possible. And then the third part is the review the in-season and post-season activities, sections 20 through 26 and 28. Again, this is all extremely important information, and you should not wait till the end of the season to get to the last section. All of this should be reviewed at the very beginning. Some of the items contained within the middle and the last part of the section you won't be addressing till a little bit later, but you have to know these due dates exist. You have to know these requirements exist. So this is the place to go to find out NCJLA policies and procedures, things like that. We also highly recommend that your club disseminate this information to the organization. It doesn't just have to be for administrators. You know, we've got coaches, all the material in here that pertains to the top to bottom of NCJLA operations. Parents, you know, if they have a question about, oh, what's, you know, game day protocol, what's that? Things like that. This is accessible to anybody and everybody within your club, and we highly recommend you pass those things on. Can you switch to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Another equally important piece of information to review is your safety and health page. So as organizations, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make our program safe for our kids. So one of the first things to recognize here is the NCJLA Safe Sport Policy and mandated reporting. We have links to those. You can see what the policies are. If there's any information that you need to submit, or if there's anything that you need to report, the guide there will help instruct you how to do that and give you recommendations on what to do. Concussion and serious injury reporting, these are all important as well. Even if it's in practice, if you have a player who, you know, busts an ankle or something like that, you should go through and report it in the serious injury reporting section of the website. This is all valuable information, one, to manage what's happening throughout the league with respect to concussions. You know, is it happening during a certain time of year? Is it happening with a certain club? Is it, you know, what is it that we're not doing that we should be doing? Serious injury reporting, same type of thing. Are we seeing a reoccurring type of injury? If that's the case, why? Is it related to style of play? Is it related to rules? What is it related to? So this is all important data to help us manage and be responsible stewards of our program. Like I said, it's not just all about the games. It's all about, you know, what happens in practices and just any NCJLA related event. Laura, is there anything you want to touch on the first two before I go on to the next three?
I just wanted to say that, you know, a lot of times parents have, if they're new to lacrosse, they only know what's in the movies or what, you know, like they kind of think of their impression of lacrosse. And so this can be a really great page to make parents feel like your club is, you know, has their players' safety in mind, and that it's not just that you care, but you actually have policies in place and training in place and ways for that parent to, you know, report if they're concerned about something. So I would say this is a good tab for even recruiting new parents and new families to the sport.
Great. AED information. If you don't know what an AED is, you should, and you need to get to know it. This is a spot where you can find out additional information about that. I don't know, do we have ways to purchase an AED, or is it just the basic principles?
Yeah, there is a program through US Lacrosse, and if a club is interested in that, this is the first step, you know, reading about the requirements, and then there is a link there that they can go and apply for an AED through USL.
Great, thank you. Event cancellation policy, another extremely important thing to know about. You know, what are the parameters? What are the timeframes? What are the conditions? Those type of things, all associated. And again, it's best to get to know them prior to the season starting so that you have an idea, not the day of, we're having thunderstorms or there's other things going on about air quality. How do we manage it? So all the resources are there for you. And again, it's another one of those things that you can help communicate these items to your parents to provide guidelines of when their children will be playing and when they won't. And then the next, safety equipment requirements and changes. So both the boys and the girls programs go through every year and have, you know, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's a couple different updates to the safety requirements. So another key thing for administrators to review and disseminate the information to their coaches, to the parents, so that we make sure that our kids are using the best safety equipment that they possibly can, and that anything that's old or outdated or doesn't qualify is replaced in some fashion. So you can find those safety requirements changes on the website as well under the safety and health tab. Okay, move to the next one, please. Okay, so we live in a time where we want to do our best with respect to, sure, we want to be great coaches and we want to run great programs, but we want to also do right by the kids involved in the sport and make sure that when the parents hand off their kids to our programs for practices and games like that, that we are managing our club in a way that's responsible, and we're educating our coaches and administrators and families to what the expectations are, and things to look out for within these activities. So we do recommend that all your coaches train on how to interact with your youth accordingly. Sometimes people can, if they don't know the proper procedures, they may cross lines inadvertently or unintentionally, and we want to make sure that we eliminate those possibilities. It's good to know, what are the best practices, what are the best ways to relate with your players, and to make sure that everybody's staying safe for all participants involved.
I just want to add that some clubs have designated a director of coaches, and that person usually dives deeper into this document and is responsible for relaying the information to the volunteer coaches. It can be a little overwhelming, but I think a new coach would appreciate knowing exactly how, what is expected of them, and this document will help them with that.
Great, thank you. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Laura, for the NCGLA Club Operations must-dos.
Yeah, I will take a little pause here. Does anybody have any questions about some of the items that we just went over, the website, the Google Drive support, health and safety? All right, must-dos. So these over the years have evolved. I will say that if you have been a club leader or a coach in the NCGLA before 2020, we are starting to revise these again in response to COVID and some of the strains on youth sports. So without further ado, our first must-dos. Our league does require that all players and coaches and officials actually have US Lacrosse membership. This includes having a background check. You want to make sure that your club is not paying for background checks and paying for a US Lacrosse membership. That coach membership includes that background check, and that can be anywhere from 55 a coach to 30 a coach. So make sure that your club is saving that. It also includes Safe Sport certification. US Lacrosse is on track to be an Olympic sport, and the Safe Sport Act of 2017 mandated that any Olympic sport must include Safe Sport certification for their coaches. This is to keep our players safe and to make sure that we're screening the right volunteers for our children. US Lacrosse also has hardship memberships available for your players. This may be a financial strain for some, and we don't want that to be a barrier to participation. We have a regional manager from US Lacrosse that can help process those memberships for those that need help. This also provides insurance for your club. You should not have to purchase additional insurance. US Lacrosse does provide that as long as you require that everybody is a US Lacrosse member. Certifying your coaches training. We want to make sure that coaches who are on the field and are identified as a responsible adult for children to go to, that they are being trained properly, and that they are a safe person for those kids to to contact. We also provide them with a badge so that the kids know, who that person is. We do require the US Lacrosse membership, the background check, safe sport, and signed concussion certification. We used to require other training, but like I said, because of the strains of COVID this upcoming year, it'll just be those minimum qualifications. The other piece of must-dos is making sure that your club gets the code of conduct and waivers signed. The code of conduct is a document that outlines how we want our participants to honor the game. Lacrosse is rooted in Native American history, and so with that, it comes with more responsibility to conduct ourselves in a positive manner. This document will help your club. If there is an issue with behavior, you can refer back to it when you're counseling that participant and say, these are items that you agreed to do and you didn't do that, so we're not quite sure why that happened. It's a good starting point for that difficult conversation. It also establishes what you expect of people. Our waivers, these are important because with COVID now, clubs are going to have waivers of liability signed, and we have adopted the US Lacrosse waiver, which is easy for your club to use. You can customize it and send that out to all of your parents and players. If you do have any players who need to play either up an age level or down an age level, we also have standard waivers of liability that your club can use for parents to sign that they understand the risks of playing up or playing down. The next 3 must-dos, there's 6 of them. We want you to certify all your player and coach rosters. After your club has all of your coaches do their training and you're done with your player registration, we want to make sure that you're verifying that the information is accurate, and that if you have any petitions that the NCJLA Board of Directors has given you permission for that. And then we provide you with a standard template that you then submit to Dan Miller, our webmaster. For players, for your rosters, we do need their US Lacrosse member number and their birth date. There's some other standard items that go on there. We are being very flexible with uniform numbers this year. Again, just because of COVID, we want to make sure that we're giving clubs flexibility to make sure that any kid that wants to play gets to play. The 5th item for must-dos, keep accurate records. This is important. You, as a club, you are your own organization. You are a member of a league, and we want to make sure that if there are any questions about compliance, that it's very easy for you to find those records. We can help you with setting up some organization for that. But these are items that you'll want to keep organized in case any parents have questions or there's any other records verification needed. The other piece of this is paying your fees and invoices on time. And the last piece is paying taxes on time. As a state organization, you may have taxes, and we want to make sure all of our clubs are in compliance with the state of California. It's not, nonprofit status is not required, but we will help you with that if that's something that your club would like to do. Lastly, we require that our clubs teach honoring the game and teaching the roots of lacrosse. Like I said before, lacrosse is rooted in Native American history, and we want to make sure that kids understand that. There's a great course through US Lacrosse called Cultural Competency that touches on some of the roots and how to be respectful of that. Again, if you need any resources for this must-do, we have those, and so does US Lacrosse. Any questions about these? All right. Payments and due dates. So money is important. As a club, you're running your own organization, and parents, will want to know what accountability is in place. For the NCJLA, we have 4 types of payments that we ask of our member clubs. Now, these are all based on your teams that are registered. We do not charge a membership fee to the league. Membership is free, but having your teams play in the competition that is sponsored by the NCJLA does incur some fees. The first one is the league listing fee. This is for your team to be included in the meetings, to be listed on the schedules, and this covers the year-round operations costs covered with your team. This is non-refundable. It's a nominal fee, and it covers things like this activity tonight. Sorry? I thought I heard something. The season operations fee, this is partially refundable. It depends on the date of cancellation. And this is new because, youth sports was rocked at its core this past March with COVID. And so now the season operations fee is partially refundable if we have to cancel the season. This directly covers costs related to regular season games. That would be, your assigners fees, the webmaster loading your schedule, being on the website, scheduling meetings, things that are directly related to your team playing games. And this would be due the 3rd Sunday or January 3rd. We've pushed back our season start date so that clubs have more time to recruit kids and to collect those registration fees. Our third fee is the event fee. This is refundable. This covers the cost of your team to play in play days or end of season events. We frequently offer flighted tournaments for all of our divisions. We offer festivals for our 8U and 10U. And of course, for our A and high school and more competitive divisions, we offer playoffs and championships. Teams can opt in to the event, or they can decide that that just isn't something that their team wants to do this year. I will say that the standard tournament fee that you would pay for say something over the summer would probably be close to $1,000. The NCJLA, because of the volume of teams that we have in our league, we're able to offer a tournament for under $600. So the cost value there, it really cannot be beat for your teams to experience a tournament and maybe get a taste for playing one out of season. The last fee that your club will pay are the officials fees. Now, these are directly related to the number of games that you schedule and play. These are partially refundable. So if you schedule a game, but then it gets canceled because of rain, obviously we're not going to charge you for a game that is canceled because of weather that's out of our control. These are due March 1st. And then there's a reconciled invoice that will be sent to your club at the end of May, and that shows any games changed, any added games, or canceled games. So these are the 4 fees that will be possibly presented to your club based on if you're able to field teams. And we hope that this helps our clubs with collecting payments this upcoming year. Everything is due either January 3rd, then later in February, and finally March 1st. Any questions about these fees? All right. I'm going to pass this to Chris.
Yes. Okay. So now we have some free stuff. Okay. So a couple very important items that get provided to clubs and teams from the NCJLA are the following documents. First of all, you've got the boys and girls rule sheets. So these are laminated copies that get sent out to the clubs, and you get one per registered team. Every year we do update the rules sheet. This year, excuse me, it looks like we're not going to have all that many rules changes to boys and girls, but that's for another conversation another time. But every year we get these rules sent out so that teams have the latest and the greatest rule sheets. These highlight the some of the more important or more frequently asked questions or new rules that are changes from years past, and so they're important for coaches and teams to have, even if you have a coach who's been coaching in the NCJLA for years before. It's important that they reference this to make sure that they are up to speed with the latest and the greatest, aside from having to take rules tests and things like that. So the NCJLA game protocols sheet, last year we were able to condense the sheet into one version for boys and girls. So there are some characteristics of each game which are called out independently in the protocol sheet. However, now it's one document. Again, it's one laminated copy per registered team. And then boys and girls score sheets. So every team gets provided 9 score sheets from the NCJLA, assuming that half their games they'll be the designated visiting team. And so with respect to score sheets, we have videos that go through how to score, and other resources associated with scoring including how to do stats, things like that. But with respect to the documents that you will receive prior to the season, these are 3 very important documents that you'll get and how many copies you'll get of each. Next slide, please. So we have some additional must-dos for you. One, let's recap or read the ops guide section devoted to game scheduling and the section on officials. Use NCJLA provided template for submitting game schedules. Again, a lot of these will get into more detailed focus in the individual training sessions themselves when we set those up for scheduling and so on. Visit arbitersports.com and review the question and answer section for athletic directors and coaches. This is probably one item that is neglected the most. And often people say, I don't ever deal with Arbiter. I don't know anything about it. It's good to get an understanding of what Arbiter is and how it works. And that'll prompt questions. And of course, you see the Q&A section. You'll find that tremendously helpful, especially club administrators. You need to know how Arbiter works. Contact your previous club scheduler or president for your club's login for the boys Arbiter site information. So this is important that information gets transferred, and the girls Arbiter site. This information gets transferred from one scheduler to the other. You don't get a new one for a new scheduler every year. So please be mindful of that anytime there's a change in hands with your schedulers, that this is one of those key pieces of information that gets handed off. And then if you're brand new to a club, please contact your assigner of officials for the NCLRA for the boys teams or the NCWLO for the girls teams to have 2 accounts set up for your club. We do have 2 separate officiating organizations, one for each. So the NCLRA for boys, NCWLO for the girls teams. And that's an important thing to know as a club administrator as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, and I cannot preach to this enough as I hand off this to Aaron. Boys rep calls, girls rep calls. Please attend these meetings. Aaron.
Yes, you want me to talk on this too, on this slide?
Yeah, I think this one is yours. Is it, or is it mine? Oh, it's mine. That's mine, I apologize.
20 is mine.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll back me up in this. These meetings are extremely important because it's the latest and the greatest, the current events, what's happening, what you should be doing as a club administrator at that time of the month, the monthly action items, league information and updates. Sometimes we get new, current events that impact the entire league as a whole. And that news, we don't have enough time to put it in a publication to get out. We send out email blasts, things like that. However, these rep calls are one of the best ways that Aaron and I can communicate information regarding the boys and the girls programs in the quickest manner possible. We do record these meetings as well. So once the live meeting takes place, we typically get the webinar posted on YouTube within 24, 48 hours. But those are great. However, you don't have the opportunity to ask questions obviously during the YouTube video as you would if you logged in and accessed the rep call during the live call. So I want to highly encourage you. Oftentimes, we'll have staff members from different parts of the organizations on there to help assist with questions. Like Aaron and I will reach out to Laura or Dan or any of the commissioners to help assist with answering questions regarding specific topics that are discussed during these calls. So these meetings are on the Google Calendar. You don't have to just be a club administrator to attend. You can send your coaches in your stead. You can, we don't mind having parents hop on the call, to represent you from your club. So I would really love to drive participation for both of these calls every month. There's only one a month, so it's not too bad. If you as an administrator can't make the call, please find somebody who can call in and just take in the information, write down the key points, and help disseminate that information to the others who weren't able to attend. We'd really appreciate that. So with that, Aaron, I don't know if I've left anything else to say with respect to the rep calls, but I will hand it off to you.
No, I don't think you left anything out. Laura, I was just going to say that just the in-depth guidance is more like if you are reading along in the Google Drive calendar and workflow, we're there to explain all those steps in person, and the reps can ask questions as they're should be doing those things for you, even if the girls reps are doing it or if it's the presidents or other board members. It's just really hands-on and it keeps everybody up to date. So I really do recommend it as well.
I was just going to say that running a club can be sometimes like, the phrase drinking from the fire hose. And I think these meetings do a good job of chunking and just showing what the focus should be on for the next 1 to 2 months so that people don't get really overwhelmed. Because there can be a lot of things like, you're like, well, let's do this outreach, or let's, try to get this clinic going, or let's do a camp. And sometimes it can be very overwhelming. And I think these meetings do a good job of keeping people focused and grounded on what needs to be done, within the next 1 to 2 months.
So this slide is showcasing, showcasing our sportsmanship incident reporting. We refer to this as SIR, and it's not just for bad sportsmanship, it's also for good sportsmanship. We would like that also to be reported. The resources that you need to review and communicate to your membership or your members, including your coaches, your parents, and your players, is firstly the NCJLA Sportsmanship Incident Reporting Policy page, and then it goes with the codes of conduct as well. So this policy page will cover our policy, but it also gives examples of infractions. It goes into very much a lot of detail. We have updated it this year to include hate speech and other forms of racism. There's also the list of consequences. So if you all become very familiar with it, and then you pass on that not only you should be reading it, but everyone, and especially the coaches and players, should be aware of what the policies and consequences are if they come up. And for instance, a consequence could be from let's say you're ejected, you would be out, you would be sitting out for up to multiple games in some circumstances. So missing lacrosse, and it could be expulsion from the league if it's really bad. So we want to mitigate those. Here is the timeline. So if an incident happens on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or any day of the week, we ask that you submit, that people know that they should submit the sportsmanship incidences as soon as possible, but the deadline would be by Monday at 9 a.m. to be dealt with that week. So this comes into play especially for offenses that are recorded on the score sheet. The officials they know that they need to submit these by 9 a.m. So if a player has been, or a coach has been ejected, that we have the time to make action if need be before the next game. Anyone can submit a sportsmanship incident report via the form that is on the website. If someone needs help, you can email myself, who I'm the sportsmanship chair, for assistance if you need help submitting a report. So the club president and myself will communicate. So the coaches or parents will not be the ones that I communicate with when I get a report. I will only communicate directly with the club president, and that will be via email and text message. The information for reporting is time sensitive, as you can see on our schedule, and it's confidential. If needed, the incident will go to the SIR committee, which is a panel of board members and myself, and we will follow the adjudication process as needed based on the SIR. The last thing I'd like to just highlight is the good sportsmanship. We really do want you to report that so that we can acknowledge it. So we have, we post, I believe, monthly or bi-monthly good sportsmanship on our website, and we like to post stuff on Facebook as well. Laura, do you have anything else to add, or Chris?
All right. I just wanted to say that this is the mechanism to take the pressure off of a club president to deal with anyone that is not honoring the game and competing with class, and or anything in the code of conduct. That this is the way for us to take that pressure directly off of you, and put some of the responsibility on the league to help you with these things. It's there, and I hope you take advantage of it. Okay. NCGLA best practices, Erin?
I'm ready. Yeah, so the next topics we'll talk about are our best practices. These are the should do's. So they do kind of go along the lines of, they pair up with the must do's, but these are what we like to call should do's. So we definitely think you should read the operations guide, and that it is going to be updated for 2021. That's what's there now is the old version, so look for those updates coming soon. Also, we really hope that you will use our provided templates for submitting your team rosters and your coaches certifications. We highly recommend that you also invite a local official for a preseason Q&A or attend a rules interpretation session offered by these officials. We have two organizations, as we talked about before. The girls' game is NCWLO, and the boys' game NCLRA. Laura, can you touch base on how they would do that? Like, what should they directly go to the website of those organizations, or they can?
Yep. So each organization has its own board of directors and president, and I would reach out to the president of their board of directors. Their information's on our website under contacts, and they can send a certified trainer to your organization for this Q&A session. I will say that they've moved away from just letting any official come and do a Q&A. They now have certified trainers. So that's a good thing that you can point out to your parents and coaches, that these are people who are, you know, they're not just officials, they're actually the trainers of the officials.
Thank you. The rules interpretation sessions are offered annually, and they're really good for coaches to attend each season. So we can all read the rule book, but the interpretations that the officials make as they're officiating games is a little bit more complex, and it really does help to mitigate issues that coaches have on the sidelines a lot, because they don't quite understand how a rule is being interpreted by the officials. The last bullet point on this page: conduct regular in-season education meetings and offer parent surveys. So keeping in contact not only with your coaches throughout the season to make sure that they are learning, but also keep in touch with your parents throughout the season, and just check in. So having a mid-season point where you're just reaching out to see if everybody's doing okay, and you can do that through a survey or an email. Surveys are good because you'll get direct feedback, but also at the end of the season, if you have a survey that you can throw out there annually at the end of the season, and you do that every year upon year, I'm sure you know it's really helpful as far as like figuring out what's working and what's not for your parents. Next bullet point: use the NCGLA and the USL education videos and customizable resources. These are, we have the education videos on our YouTube channel, which we're going to touch base on in a slide coming soon. They include volunteer training for table staff, for keeping score, for being a sideline manager, and I believe there might be, we have a new one coming for safety manager. And is there one more, Chris?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I missed.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it in just the next slide. So, but we highly recommend that your coaches and your volunteers are all in the know of how to perform those volunteer positions. And those videos are short and sweet, and they're very, very full of information. We'd love for your coaches and your reps to contact your age group commissioners for support regarding practices, team management, or for questions about NCGLA procedures and support. So the staff, myself, Chris and Lara and Dan, we're all available, of course, but we also have those 7 other people that are in the know, and you can reach out to those people as well. We want you to use the NCGLA How to Recruit, Retain, and Develop Your Club's Coaching Staff document, which is new this year and found in the help and support page. And when in doubt, contact the NCGLA staff if you have questions. Don't hesitate at all. We're here for you. So our online volunteer training resources, we have a score table training video. This tutorial explains both how to keep score and how to keep time. We also have a sideline manager training video on YouTube, and it's really good. We to have a visual to go along with the documentation that we have posted on our website. There's a few pages, a couple documents that go into depth of what is expected of a sideline manager. This video just makes it a lot more, interesting, I would say, to learn the job. We provide, the NCGLA provides sideline manager vests to all of our member clubs. This is important for you to know so that you don't go on Amazon and buy your own. We will mail them to you directly when you need them. We also, oh, that's right, the game scheduler training webinar. So this is a interactive webinar, just like this meeting tonight, that we go through how to be a scheduler and how to schedule games. And we hold this every year. Last year we had 3 separate meeting times, so that there was different times that worked with people's different schedule. It wasn't just one time. So I think that's very valuable. This was mandatory last year, but I'm not quite sure about this year. And then our last online resource will be our new safety manager training video. This will showcase how to deal with COVID-19 and any sort of health protocols that we need to implement when hosting lacrosse practices or games or any event. So checking off I'm sure everyone's done this out and about, like, do you have a temperature, yes or no, and take the temperature and provide the cleaning materials. And I think this person would be in charge. This video will show how to mitigate all of that for your club.
I just want to say that if a club,
oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to say that if a club does have an idea for a video, that we typically take on 1 per year. So if there is something, reach out to Aaron or Chris. Can I go to the next one, Aaron?
Yeah. So this slide is what we called recommended club activities and committees. So these are things that you as a club need to do actively throughout the season, preseason, season, to keep operating at a high quality level. So player recruitment always, and it needs to be active. So multiple different ways to come up with your best plan to find players for your club every year. So you might be targeting a certain age group, or maybe you're trying to grow your club. But player recruitment, we have a coaches and officials recruitment sort of goes hand in hand with player recruitment. You can sort of pair them together, of course, but definitely slightly different marketing that you would need to do. But we have resources for you, and we're also ourselves resources for you if you need help figuring out how to recruit players, coaches, and officials. It's something that you should actively do all the time. Fundraising and scholarships. So you can have fundraisers or you can have capital campaigns to raise money for scholarships for your players. We offer scholarships as well. That's something different, but we're looking at telling you that it's best for your club to have your own fundraisers and have your own scholarships. Also actively should always be developing new field contacts so that you have new great places to play, especially if you're expanding. And I know that some Some areas have fewer available fields to use, or they're not as, in good condition as others, but just to keep that line of communication open is really important. I recommend that you have someone on your board that specifically does this job alone and keeps those communications open and is always looking for new places. You should actively educate your coaches. So pushing out a timeline for them to be online with US lacrosse education, making sure they're up to date with their any online courses, letting them know when there's in-person courses. But on top of that, like if you have a director of coaches, someone who is in charge of this coaches education, maybe this person is an experienced lacrosse coach themselves, or they were a former player, but that their job is to make sure that they're providing what coaches need to give the players the best experience that they can. So practice planning, drills, et cetera, et cetera. So we recommend that you're always doing that. Community engagement is the last one on here. So if there's ways to give back to your community, it's, do something good to give back. We recommend that you do that as well. This could mean donations, collecting donations for a local charity or food bank. That's just one example. But if you need or want more examples, you can reach out to me for that.
Okay, so financial support and scholarships. There are 3 types in NorCal, in our region, that are focused specifically on lacrosse. We actually have some people from US Lacrosse and NorCal that will be presenting with us on September 24th. And we will go over the 3 types of scholarships that the NCJLA is offering this year, and the financial aid, like the fundraiser agreement that we have. And then NorCal chapter of US Lacrosse, they have a free Sticks loaner program. So if you're thinking about doing a free clinic or something of that nature, or if you even have a new team where kids need equipment, this is a great resource specifically for our sport. And then the NorCal Lacrosse Foundation, they have a quarterly scholarship grants and loans available for lacrosse programs that we'll be going over on the 24th. All right, so now we are at our Q&A with the panel of Mentor Club leaders. I am excited to introduce them. Kathy, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, and Jim, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, and Matt, you're here?
I'm here.
All right, great. So I guess if you guys want to share, I kind of highlighted, some of the things that I personally knew about you. Kathy, I think you're like the PE class guru. And Jim, I applaud you for all the help that you helped me with at Petaluma with the Friday Night Lights outreach program. Had a lot of fun doing that. And Matt, I'm consistently impressed with the growth that's happening in Rockland. You guys are doing a great job up there. So if you guys just want to share something really quickly, I guess go from top. Kathy, if you want to start, or.
Sure. I guess I'll speak to the lacrosse PE program Sacramento Lacrosse manages. So I started Sacramento Lacrosse in 2011 and had very little knowledge of how to start an organization, but the NCJLA was a great resource all the way through the steps of creating a club. After the very first season, we ended up with just 2 teams, but grew a team, one team every season, until we were able to field at least one, if not more, teams in each of the boys and girls categories. About 6 years ago, I submitted a request to US Lacrosse to do their PE soft lacrosse program. And at that time, what they were offering is they would send out a US Lacrosse individual to help you go to a school and teach the school, the PE classes, how to play lacrosse. With the US Lacrosse staff stretched so thin, they did not award us that that program, that grant. However, after discussing it with them, they agreed to still send the equipment if our coaches, Sacramento Lacrosse coaches, would like to do that training themselves. And so I still very much used the US Lacrosse training style and guidelines. They have a great manual that goes along with that program that you can give each of the PE coaches. And it worked so well that I continued it and grew it for about 5 years. And I think the most successful component of that whole program was the fact that I was able to speak with a lead PE teacher who coordinates monthly meetings for all of the PE teachers. And so I would go to one of their in-service days and I would actually teach the PE teachers how to play lacrosse. And we would run a clinic with those PE teachers just like we would if we were coming to their school. That way they knew exactly what to expect when we got there. And it was just, just a very happy circumstance in that it worked so well. So after the in-service day, the PE teachers were so excited about lacrosse that they would immediately sign up to have a coach come out to their classes and teach PE for whether it be 1 day or 3 days or 5 days, whatever we could manage to come to their classes during the day. I will say that's the hardest part, is getting your coaches or parents available during the school days to go and teach PE classes. And generally we would just ask our coaches to come just 1 or 2 periods. So they were only there for an hour or 2 hours, maybe 3 hours at tops. Come in, right before you head into work. Whatever they could manage is, and they also don't need to be very experienced PE teachers or coaches, because you're literally teaching the very, very basics of lacrosse to very young students. Generally, we focused on the 4th through 6th graders, but most of these kids have no experience, so you're literally just teaching them how to catch, throw, pick up the ball, and you're lucky if you get into actually shooting and successfully passing. So it really, unless you're there at the school for several days, again, you don't need to be a very experienced parent or coach to have some real success and visibility into your club. So that was very detailed. Hopefully that was good enough.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jim, my question for you is, for outreach for those types of events like Friday Night Lights, what would be your piece of advice for a new club leader looking to do an event like that?
So, Jim Kircher, thank you again for the introduction and all the great things you wrote under my name there. Petaluma was actually really a great experience working with that group. The president, Ted Patchett was excellent to work with. He made a lot of this stuff happen. I just had the ideas, and some of this was already in place, so it was easy to work with this group. What also, I think a key point that really gets washed over is the fact that they have fields that are easy to get to, and they're AstroTurf, and they're so easy to line up and do. So that has to be in place for any organization. Fields. They did an excellent job of setting that up, and Pelham was very successful as a result of that, and so is the whole North Bay. Outreach with Friday Night Lights. So it started off as an opportunity in the off season. It would start in the fall, where they would get an opportunity to get new recruits out once every evening on a Friday with the lights on, kind of a magical environment for a lot of younger kids. You get these coaches come out, just some basic drills, and sometimes it's just to get some of the players from last year to help the new guys. Started with that idea. We then start to kind of transition into something as a higher learning. So I started bringing in coaches, the high school coaches, on certain nights, and they would pick a specific topic or skill set. We started using some of the pay-to-play teams, such as Advanced, All West at the time, 101 Lacrosse. They would come in on different nights and they would pick something else too, and they would teach at all skill levels, and men and women, depending on what teams and what number of kids we could have out there. And the kids loved it. Didn't matter if it was pouring rain, they were excited. Coaches, like I remember Chuck Henry came on out there and just fired up the little guys. It was awesome. You know, when you get that kind of energy going with that new feeling, and you get these coaches and these other organizations, they know that this is how we feed our program. You get it started with the young people, with the young kids, and just one night a week, and it's, you know, it's in the off season, and it's great, and it carries through all the way through January to when we start off our regular training. So it's a great way to kind of see what you've got. It also allows, if you're doing your timing properly, what I did as an athletic director is kind of do a little bit of timing so that we start to see some numbers, and it would help us when we start putting together our attendance and starting to understand how big of a roster we would carry, and then seeing the different skill sets. It would allow us to way in advance understand, okay, do we have A teams or B teams? Do we have rookie teams or do we have veteran teams? So it's another opportunity when you're doing that to put that together and see it. Once we started doing that, I kind of took that whole idea of the Friday Night Lights and carrying over from what we talked about earlier about getting referees out. We had a coaches day that occurred in January, where we would bring the referees out to give us interpretation. We bring out the high schools coaches so they get it as well, and then they end up helping coach our coaches, especially the younger ones. And we also got the opportunity where in Petaluma you have Casa Grande and you have Petaluma High School, and those varsity coaches, they have particular language and particular way of playing, and so they were able to translate that for the coaches that are at the youth level. And so you're getting that advantage of getting that to your kids early on before they get all the way up to the high school level, which is where we're trying to feed into. So all great opportunities. The biggest thing I can tell you though is the NCGLA provides a lot on their website, and the people in this leadership panel, as well as the people who are on the board and in the commissioner positions, there's a lot of knowledge there. Everything you need to help put together and improve your team is there year to year, and it constantly grows. So please reach out. Just ask. ASK, right? I'm not gonna say what the A is. We're gonna go Derriere Saving Kit. You gotta ask. So that, I'm out. Thank you.
That's a good one. Matt, you are one of the newer club leaders. So my question for you is, what piece of advice do you wish you knew before you started down this path? You've got a great coaching resume here. So what do you wish you knew?
Oh, that's a tough one, Laura, because you know I probably know everything. No, I'm just kidding. I think there's about there's a million things that I think that we probably wish we knew as we were getting started. You know, and I think that's one of the hardest things being a club leader is, you know, in some respects, you're going to get a lot of opinions from a lot of different people. And, you know, what we found was that our situation was going to be unique no matter what, in terms of, you know, getting fields, right? What works in one city or one county wasn't true for how we needed to do it here in Rockland. Dealing with the school district was much different than dealing with the city itself. So that was something to learn. You know, and I think most of the people that have heard our story, but just real quick, you know, our goal was to get lacrosse in the high schools. And when we discussed it with the high schools, they said, well, you need to have a youth program. So that started us on the road to how we were going to develop the youth program. To do that, but every situation, I think one thing just to learn from is everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. Even if you're one town over from an existing club, what you need to do to get things going and you know, up and running in the right way is probably a little bit different for everybody from that perspective. In terms of probably what we wish we knew, and from coaching and team development, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have, but we did expand very quickly. And I think that's one thing that we're always trying to figure out is how to somewhat temper growth with the resources that we have. We've been fortunate to take on a lot of new coaches. And I think some of that is the structure that, you know, we have in terms of running combine practices where, you know, practices for all the teams may only be 2 days a week, but I'm out there. Kids are getting coached by all of our coaches, you know, in a station type format, which allowed, you know, the newer coaches to feel more comfortable. But honestly, I think that's a good one. I've been shocked by how many people, I think because of that structure, have stepped up to help. I think we had close to 35 coaches last season. So that was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a very good strategy. I'm glad you brought that up. So my next question for you guys is, how do you handle parents who get angry? For any one of you. It's a good thing you're pausing.
I might defer to some of the longer tenured club presidents here. I haven't had that a whole lot, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I am Jim Kircher, and I have gotten it as a head coach at the younger levels. We have a straight up 24-hour rule when I was working with Petaluma, and I think it got stretched to 48 hours a year afterwards. But they have something they need to get off their chest. I will direct them for 24 hours to sit on it, and we're going to talk after that. That usually gives enough time for us both to frame it. I let them talk usually about what the problem is, and I go, we're not going to talk any further. Give us 24 hours and we'll talk about it again and we'll address it. So that's one of the key things I've learned. And I usually, when that happened, even as a coach or as an administrator, you don't hold that to yourself. You share that with somebody above you and, you know, someone else in the organization and give you a better view of it.
When you have that follow-up, do you include, you know, somebody else from your club? Do you include an assistant coach? How do you typically handle that communication?
There's always somebody from the administration with you. So if, as a coach, I'll be there as the coach. We'll have somebody from the administration be there as well, because this is something that since it's a complaint, we want to hear it first and we want to go ahead and document it, you know. And then we try to, you know, if we've heard it initially, I get the opportunity to talk because I usually know what the problem is. Usually it's playing time. So we've discussed it. I'll usually talk with the administrator what I've done. And it usually, if I've been doing a good job during the course of the year of maintaining a roster and who shows up to the practices, it usually gets solved very easily. Sometimes there's different problems that show up, but if you go back to One of the slides we had earlier where it talks about documentation and files, those are very important. Also, if you've been following all the rules of the NCJLA and the USL Lacrosse, and you have at the heart of all that, some of the things that they talked about in the trainings that you go through to become a coach and or administrator anywhere within the NCJLA, you should have all the skills that you need to handle it. I usually always just point back to the game and the kids, and I never go wrong with that. So as long as we're trying to take their best interest with trying to make the game fun for them and that they're having a good time and that they get to participate, it always solves itself.
Good advice. Kathy, do you have anything to add, or?
Gosh, you know, for me, I think the thing that's helped me get through, you know, many years of being in a position to take heavy fire in that area of lots of complaints is my lack of memory. I tend to, you know, definitely not dwell on individuals who kind of lose it during a game or a practice or whatever it might be. From a kid to an adult, that forgive and forget, it's mostly just forget in my case and move on. I think Jim makes really good points. You know, if you're doing what you're doing for the good of the kids and the parents, and you're following the rules, generally speaking, you're well prepared for an upset parent or kid. You know, leaning back on the rules that you're following, the policies that you've set up, the NCJLA. You know, if you're well prepared with all of those things, then you're going to have the answers you need for why something happened, and how to resolve the situation. We also have a 24-hour policy, so leaning on that is really key. And then you know, keeping communication with at least 3 people, so the individual who is complaining, yourself, and then another board member or an assistant coach or whatever is the most appropriate. But having an extra person there is a really good idea.
Sound advice. Okay, do we have anybody on the call that has a question?
I actually, this is Chris. I do have one question for each of our panelists with respect to fundraising opportunities. Are there ones that you found to be more successful than others? I think all of the clubs within the NCJLA have had to do some degree of fundraising. I know that it's common that, you know, you'll reach out to local restaurants or things like, you know, Chipotle or other places like that, and they'll have, much like the schools do, like a school night. Are there other things that you guys have done that you've found success with, or things that at the end of the day really weren't worth the time and energy?
This is Kathy. I would say our ventures into trying to do the restaurant fundraisers has been not good at all. It typically includes me being there all day or all night, or at least somebody there the entire time. And because our geographic footprint is so spread out, getting, you know, participation is tough. I imagine clubs that have a smaller footprint would glean better success there. I'm going to say our best fundraising, it really happened when we found someone who took it seriously and just started making the phone calls and asking the parents to, you know, a lot of our players have parents who own small businesses, We include their logo on a T-shirt. We put their contact information on our website in a scrolling pattern. And that individual who really took it seriously put together kind of a silver, gold, platinum style donation as to what you receive for that sponsorship. And that's when we really saw some success. So mirroring some of the things that are out there when people are donating into a program, just the professionalism that she brought to the program really helped draw up some monies.
Yeah, it's Matt. I kind of have two. I would agree with Kathy that the restaurant, Blaze Pizza thing can, the payoff may not be there. What we actually did was we tied in a fitting with our local retailer, and previously when we had a direct deal with the supplier, we tied that into a night at Chipotle. So we would get the majority of the new families, a lot of the existing families, if they wanted to come try on their uniforms, try on pads. As I said, the local, store was there, and then they go in and order Chipotle. That was probably the most successful one like that we had. The biggest fundraiser that we have the most success with is we tied in our end of year party into a festival. So there's an end of year festival. All the teams come. That's their end of year party. We had some great organizers that got donations. We had auctions. We had gear for sale. And that was probably the largest single source of revenue that we've generated, was tying in that end of the season festival to the team party and to make it the fundraiser at the same time.
Yeah, this is Jim. That's good stuff, you guys. I personally have not handled a lot of the events. I know that with Petaluma, they'd run several different events during the course of the year, from a Chipotle event to a brewery event to fireworks, selling fireworks every year. That seems to be popular. I've never handled any piece of that. I can only speak from working with Humboldt State's lacrosse. I'm part of their board, and their biggest money raiser is actually their connection to their alumni, which is one of the things I had suggested with Santa Rosa this last year. Start working your alumni that come through for some of that and notifications. If you've got one person handling keeping all the data for previous players and coaches, I think that would be important to broaden your area, as well as all the new players and parents. The only other one would be SI, where I started in 1978, and money never seemed to be a problem there. So I don't really think that's a good choice. So that's all I got. Thank you.
I do have one. We used to do this for a club that I worked for, where the parents were like, okay, well, what is our fundraising goal? Like, how much do we need to make with these fundraisers? And then we divided that amongst all the families that had registered. And we were like, okay, so this is our total goal, and this is what we would like to see every family help contribute by either volunteering or going to a dine and donate, or, getting a gift in kind for our auction. And the parents came back and were like, can I just buy my portion out now? And so we had to have a pretty serious conversation about, like volunteer time versus, buying out. And so it was a good conversation. It actually worked out where everybody decided, hey, I'd rather just write a check for $250 and, that's what I'd like to do. So I think if a club is small enough and they can have that conversation with their parents and, come up with that amount, I think that in some areas that might be a solution to what you're trying to do. I know for the field hockey club that this happened with, it was great. The parents were ecstatic and so were the players. We were like, we don't have to wash cars for 2 Saturdays in a row. Yes. So I think that if the club is small enough and they can do that, I think it's a worthwhile venture.
Hey, this is Richard from Santa Cruz. I'll volunteer what we've done. We've had a coffee fundraiser, sales. Typically, that's our biggest fundraiser. Selling bags, we get them at like $8 to $10, and then sell them for 14 or 15, and have a contest. I mean, like whoever sells the most gets $100 or something like that. And there's also a $75 buyout option. We in the past we've also had bingo, which is popular for the younger kids, and just getting donations from businesses and stuff, and then have those as the prizes, and selling like pizza and stuff there. But honestly, the most we've raised is through some sponsorships. Like if you can get some parents who work at companies who can do a sponsorship or something. We've gotten $500 to $1,000, for those, and we've considered just getting like, you see a lot of businesses have pictures with sponsorships, and getting a couple $100 for just like basically little league and like soccer style sponsorships, but like paying parents with donation matches who have with companies and stuff like that, or if their company is has openings for applications for community support, especially for nonprofits. I think that is the biggest way to get easy, like not easy money, but fairly decent sized chunks of money. I mean, otherwise, we have Dine and Pizza Night, made a couple $100, but it's like $300 or so, like twice a year, 2-3 times a year, versus if you can get like a big company to do $1,000. I mean, you do that a couple times and it really beats out anything. I've also requested some like product from some companies, like String King or something like that, and they can't come through and donate a head or two or a stick or something like that for raffles at end of season parties.
Those are good ideas.
Laura, this is Kathy. One other thing that we started doing was offering the buyout. We collect $200 from each parent at the beginning of the season, to guarantee their participation, their volunteer participation. And then if they volunteer, we return that check, as long as they meet their volunteer obligation. They can just donate that $200 and not volunteer, or if they do not volunteer during the course of that year, then we cash that check. So we definitely have some folks who like to buy out, and then we just also, because we require that 200, we have to make sure that we have plenty of volunteer positions, because there'll be somebody who's very conscientious about their $200, but they say, but I can't be at practice and I can't do this. What else can I do? So we'll put them to work like preseason to hand out flyers, or postseason to restring goals or help clean up the storage unit. So even if you aren't available during the prime times, we can still find a time when you can put in your $200 worth of volunteer time.
Yeah, I feel like we need to have a field learning class for our for some of our parents. It's like that's how you can help your club. Jim, do you remember the field lining meetings for Petaluma? We'd get out there in the dark trying to figure out how to line the field.
Yeah, I was there. My brother was there. It's awesome.
All
I
right,
find the
so
cool thing with the field lining is making sure that you have, multiple sets of equipment. Like for the first couple years, hustling field lining equipment around to multiple locations was a nightmare. But if you can make sure that there's somebody who has equipment for every field, then they generally stay lined.
that's a good piece of advice. All right, so we are kind of coming to the closing of this. Our final question for you guys is, what's one piece of advice that you can give to club leaders? Best piece of advice. You can take a minute.
I would say seek out solid support for your board. Just don't just take whatever you can get, which sometimes you are forced in that position. But if you meet a parent at whatever age group and that person just, I don't know, something about them draws you in, figure out how they can help you on the board. Try to go and meet different parents at different age groups so you can recruit board members. They're a huge help, and not having them can be a real problem.
I'll volunteer something. My approach is to, as a president or as the board, is the goal is to provide a better experience in our sport or with through lacrosse than what's provided by the competition, buying soccer, baseball, or whatever, and provide a best experience through like not coaching and teaching life skills and sportsmanship, and develop a loyal parents who want their kids to continue to play and have their kids have fun and develop people like we have parents who wanted to volunteer even after their kids have gone through our program, or help with fundraising, things like that, because they believe that we did such a good job with their kids and how how make it like they feel how important it is for the sport of lacrosse or our organization to exist.
Good advice.
This is Matt again. I think number one, being relatively new, I would attribute a lot of our ability to grow on fostering relationships with other organizations here within Rockland. So for example, our first year, our youth rec soccer program sent out the email about our clinics to about, I think they have 3,200 players. So they sent it out to those families. I think that was a good way to go, and we've maintained a great relationship with them. In fact, they help us line our fields. And I think secondly is, and this goes a little bit to what Jim just said, but we really try to keep the barrier of entry into lacrosse as low as possible. So if that's keeping our fees as low as possible and making sure that we work with retailers or other direct sellers to keep equipment costs as low as possible. We're always trying to find a way to keep that barrier to entry lower. And, that includes us having, purchase sticks from fundraisings for our clinics. Our clinics don't cost anything. You don't have to buy a stick. You don't get anything, but, making it as easy as possible. So I think those would be the two things I would look at.
Just one point, since I've been in and out of the meeting, I was wondering, did we mention that the changes to the rules for their equipment and making sure the parents know that the rules are changing, and so that they make good buying decisions?
Yes. Yep. We went over that. Yeah. That's like
Okay.
an annual thing to check those rule sheets, make sure, and the rule changes that come out from USL and NFHS. Yep. Yep. All right, guys. The last thing that we just wanted to touch on is we took Kathy's recruiting style here. You got some great advice from our panelists, and one of the things that we're learning even as NCJLA staff is that, to Matt's point, keep it simple, keep the barrier to entry, very easy and accessible. One of the things is, with our marketing, to make sure that, our flyers are, in places where they're going to see them, and that, they're direct and to the point, so that parents, it's easy for them to see how to get their kids involved. And I think, Kathy, you did a great job with this. Also, cut those flyers in half, make it easy to print. The other style is, if you're into more digital, marketing, 650 Lacrosse. This is actually out in Menlo Park. Matt Bond is the boys director for Menlo Grizzlies. He couldn't be on tonight, but he gave us permission to give you guys this example here. And, one click, easy for parents to see. And he's, I don't know, Erin, did you have any points that you wanted to bring up about this?
I think just that if you are a club that likes to use your website to advertise, that there are some really good online marketing platforms that will help you design fancier flyers, and also like this platform MailChimp will be able to help send them out. It's a good social media platform, but these websites have customizable buildable infographics and Facebook posts, and even video. You can make videos, and at relatively low cost. And MailChimp isn't the only one, but we just wanted you to see that there are other ways to advertise than making the paper flyers, which are also super helpful. I still recommend doing those, but this is just a different thing that's out there.
Yeah, Matt does a great job of, those after school classes. Right now with COVID, that might be a little difficult, but, small groups focused on, the local community, I think you can't go wrong with that. And here's just.
Oh, go ahead. This one was just our culmination of, just recruitment content and ideas that you would put on your flyers, or that you would decide to do with your club. To Laura's point, having after school programs that are offered at the local elementary schools or middle schools, also small group sessions, and keeping everything simple, like we saw in the flyers. Just the basic information that you want to have there, the contact, maybe a couple dates and who you are. But also for the online versions, that you get to it with one click. It's right there on the front of the web page, or there's a big button that says, after school program, click here, and the information's right there, so that parents don't have to hunt around and find it. Also, having parent information available on your websites, so that it's for parents who know nothing about lacrosse, keeping them informed and making sure they can see that button easily, that they will come to your website and learn about you and what you have to offer and your philosophies, and it's very easy to find, is our best advice.
Thanks, Erin. Just some upcoming dates. Again, we're having the scholarship webinar with US Lacrosse and NorCal chapter. That's on the 24th. We have the delegates meeting on the 26th, where we'll get more in depth with the changes to make it easier for clubs this upcoming season. We've eliminated a lot of the club requirements for this upcoming spring. And then in October, we kick off team registration, and we'll do some schedulers training and scholarship disbursement in November. All right, guys, have a great season. Thank you, Kathy, Jim, Matt, Erin, Chris, everybody else that's on the call. This was very informative, and I hope that you feel ready to field teams for the spring and offer lacrosse in your community.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Laura.
right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.